President Obama delivers his State of the Union speech tomorrow night. Today, however, he was upstaged by a speech from his would-be successor, who made a confession.
Last time I actually drove a car myself was 1996, and I remember it very well, and unfortunately so does the Secret Service, which is why I haven't driven since then.
Now, here's a woman whose effort to get back in touch with us doesn't involve driving across America or even driving to the grocery store. It's being chauffeured to the National Auto Dealers Association convention to tell them, quote, "I wish I could drive one of your cars." But we should feel good. She did at least admit she's in touch with the feeling of foreigners.
I was very pleased that we got a budget agreement, for example. I'm hoping that we get past this next debt limit, challenge, because I know how the rest of the world watches us.
Now, Senator Manchin, I know that you are a very articulate, very popular person back home in West Virginia. So I'm just curious, how are you going to walk into some store in a small town in West Virginia and explain a nominee who hasn't driven in 18 years, but who's really glad that foreigners approve of how we're doing things?
I think that could be twisted just a little bit, but the bottom line is that maybe that's why it's more appealing for that she should be president, because then we'll still have someone that basically can drive the...
So we could say, keep Hillary off the road, vote Hillary for president?
Oh,
that is the most unusual slogan in modern...
I think that we all know that basically with her job and her profession and where she's been, her schedule and things of that sort, this happens. It happens to many people.
Do you want her to run?
I do.
Okay. Good.
Well, I mean, look, first of all,
I want to see where you go with this.
I think that when you're talking about the First Lady, former First Lady, she does need to be protected. I think we would probably think if she was wandering around out there by herself without Secret Service protection, that it would be a bad thing. But I want to come back to not the speech from today from the First Lady, former Secretary of State, State of the Union tomorrow. You said something earlier that I thought was terrible. You said that this Keystone Pipeline that you're all in favor of is some massive job-creating machine, when it actually turns out that this pipeline is not coming to America, it's coming through America. Most of that oil is going to go to China, and it's only going to create 4,000 temporary jobs, 35 permanent jobs. Why would you risk the debt ceiling over a boondoggle like this? And you still never answered my question. Clean debt ceiling, yes or no?
For a debt ceiling agreement, I think we have to have savings and reforms, and I think the American people strongly feel that way, too. As for Keystone, look, you want to create vital infrastructure in this country. There's a great example here. It's held up for 5 years. You've got an energy renaissance going on in this country, led by states like mine, and we can't get the basic infrastructure to even get it to market. 35 jobs. The State Department itself says more than 40,000 jobs, creates hundreds of millions in revenue, and we can tell the Middle East to take a hike. We got our own energy right here, and the administration saying no.
I am all for American energy. I'm all for solar, wind. I'm all for us figuring out cleaner burning ways to do, and this president supports clean coal, as well you know.
Let's not hold a project like Keystone for 5 years.
Keystone is the biggest boondoggle. Do you think that a company called TransCanada is that interested in making America stronger? Is that interested in making America's energy prices go down?
It's a great example of why this economy is going nowhere, because the administration is tying it up in regulatory burden, and there's a case in point.
I better jump in here. Let me just tell you why it was bipartisan. First of all, my little state of West Virginia, we think we ought to buy from our friends versus our enemies.
Nothing wrong with that.
And that's basically Canada's been the best friend we've ever had, best trading partner we've got, and our best ally. With that being said, that oil is going to go somewhere. If we have a control, according to
TransCanada, that somewhere is China.
Well, it's going to go to China if they build it.
No, the Department of Energy says otherwise. Check the Department of Energy report.
And the bottom line is we're looking to be more secure. We want to be a more secure nation. The more access we have to energy, the more secure we are.
That's good. Okay, well,
wars we have to fight.
Let's argue about something that we might be able to get somewhere on, like immigration. I
have to ask one more question of Senator Manchin, who has ably represented West Virginia. Would you really agree that this president is pro-coal? My good friend here was sort of part of his sales
in the stimulus,
impasse.
All the above, right?
about
All
$5
the
billion
above.
for clean coal in the stimulus package, I believe.
Well, there's money in it, they just haven't spent it.
No, they're
Okay, the
moving.
difference is I'm having a problem, as you know, with the fossil. The coal was the only affordable, reliable, dependable energy we've had that made this country. It's part of the energy package, and even the Department of Energy says it's going to be needed through 2030 to 2040. With that being said, I would like to see more help. I want more of a partnership, and I haven't gotten that as much as I would like to see it, and I'm fighting it every day, and we're trying to get it.
Well, let's go one more place, because we don't have unlimited time. We got to come back and we can argue about coal. We Democrats argue about coal a lot.
An energy policy that works for this country.
That $5 billion for clean coal, I think, is really important. But let's talk about something else. How about immigration? Here's an issue that most Americans have come to understand is a critical issue for American values, for American families, and yet your party cannot seem to do the right thing on it. I want to read you a quote that today from one of your colleagues, Mr. Sessions. He says, so now we're going to take an issue that divides Republicans, talking about immigration, not good for working Americans. Apparently helping immigrants is bad for working Americans, and alter the definition of the election to a controversial issue like immigration. I think it would be, from a purely political point of view, wrong. Now, you have a party that is seen as being exclusive, that doesn't seem to be opening, doesn't seem to be welcoming. This has become a signature issue. Don't comments like this, saying that the people who are helping to build America hurt working America, doesn't that hurt your party?
Immigration,
you agree, Mr. Sessions?
Immigration reform has to be done the right way. That means first secure the border. And to get the public support, to get the American people on board, you've got to secure the border first. Then you've got to enforce workplace law. You have to make sure that you have entry and exit systems at all international airports and seaports, and then and only then are you going to get the public support to get immigration reform, and that's the step-by-step approach the House is working to take.
No, wait. Well, you were a part of a sensible plan like that in the Senate. This does not sound like somebody who wants to move in a sensible direction. This sounds like somebody who's saying the issue itself should not be addressed this year.
Back to what we started.
Doesn't it hurt your party?
Back to what we talked about at the outset. The president needs to engage. The House is saying that they'll work on immigration reform, but it needs to be a step-by-step approach. So administration, engage. Let's go to work.
Let me ask you a question, totally different. Because I've watched it, and, you know, I mean, we've had many friendly conversations. But you remind me a little bit of former Senator Zell Miller, who finally said to me one day that the Democratic caucus had convinced him that his party had left him. Don't you feel at times enormous stress between all of the core values you represent in West Virginia and the debate in the caucus?
Well, there's a lot of things on the Washington level that's different than the West Virginia level. And I think even my Republican friends will say the same when they come from their states. With that being said, I still have, you know, I guess I still root for the underdog. I want to help, give a helping hand to anybody and everybody that I can, but I expect them to do something. I come from a family that we had rules and regulations. We had to work. We had to contribute. We had to give back and all these things. And I really think the Democratic Party has the core values of a West Virginia Democrat. And I feel good about that. But sometimes the National Party goes a different direction.
So unlike Zell, who gave a speech at the 2004 Republican convention, we shouldn't expect you to show up at a convention in 2016.
No, I don't think so.
I tell you, Joe works on a lot of issues, though, that Americans want to address.
It's common sense.
And he works on it in a way that we can find common ground.
Yeah,
no question about it.
Can I say one thing?
Here.
Okay.
Well, look, we'll come back. You can say it then. But next, I want to make sure that we get the final question in for our guests when we get back. I also want you at home to be able to weigh in on today's fireback question. Should President Obama bypass Congress to enact his agenda through some executive action? Tweet yes or no using hashtag Crossfire. We're going to give you the results when we get back from this break.